welcome back to Fullback Barsa Football's weekly podcast. And today we're here actually talking about a number of interesting topics. Some are good, some are bad, and that's usually how it goes with Barcelona these days. Before we dive into all the topics today, Dev, welcome back to the show. It's been another week and many stories happening. How are you feeling?
So there are many things to talk about. I think we have got a good lineup of stories. We will talk about Flick and we will talk about Lamine. And the first time Barca came back home with a training session in front of 23,000 or 21,000 people, that was amazing. The first seeds have been planted of the team coming back into the stadium. Obviously, it will not be the 105 seater, 105,000 seater. But we'll talk about that and how the season is going to pan out because it looks difficult with the way things are going.
It does, really does. And I think Hansi Flick is always a good place to start, Dev, mostly because his latest comments have ruffled a couple of feathers in the media and among the fans as well. He literally came out saying, and this might not surprise that many people, but he came out saying that he's just refusing to change. That's his own words. He's okay, you know what? Barca have their DNA and I have my way of playing and what I think is right. And I'm not really going to change that all that much. Now, obviously, we're not expecting Flick to do a whole 180 and just flip the script entirely and change everything from ground up. But it does seem like what we are seeing right now on the pitch, Dev, in terms of tactics, in terms of players, in terms of how we approach every game every week, this might be exactly what we'll be getting until the end of the season, and perhaps even to a higher degree until the end of Flick's tenure at Barcelona.
I don't think any of these managers, especially if they're elite, they don't change. Forget like he has won a sextuple. Look at Manchester United, Ruben Amorim. They are struggling, and he has repeatedly disagreed to change under immense media pressure from everyone. He has said, "I don't care. This is the way I'm going to go about it." We've seen the same with Mourinho. We've seen the same with Conte. We have seen the same with Pep. They don't change. Maybe they really think that they know better than anybody, or maybe they think that idea or that style of playing is what really matters. It can be a bunch of things, but I don't think Flick is going to change. For fans, when they go and see it on the pitch, when it works, and we loved it, like last season was magical.
Oh yeah,
And when
that
it
was
works, it
magical.
works. But right now, we don't have the players, and I don't think we are going to get the players. And when your highlight reel of conceding is exactly the same goal for 1 year, I personally feel that there's no harm in changing or adjusting
Yeah.
to the people that you have or the skill sets that you have. He obviously doesn't have the people to play the way he wants to play with
No, it
Barcelona.
doesn't. Not only is change good, but it's necessary at times. All of these coaches that you mentioned that don't change, is there, in your mind, is there an example of this hardcore being stuck in your ways, set in stone type of coach that is sustainable long term? So it's someone who can do this without changing, but constantly be at the top, be successful.
I don't think so. Even Pep ran out of steam, and we know that. And once he lost that core of players, and they started, for various reasons, that won everything, things started changing, people started leaving, what have you. City hasn't been the same. And he's trying his best to adjust, and he is bringing in a new team, and now he's taken up a new challenge. And I guess they need these new challenges sometimes to feel motivated. But that's the best example that you have. It is not because that, what I feel, fans from the outside will have pressure, sure, and that impacts the board. They look at fans, they look at fan sentiment. How is the fan? Because that's what matters to them. But for the players, if they're constantly losing, they stop believing in the coach. And the day that happens, that's the end of it. Even if the board don't want to change, they are forced to change because they will go with the players first because there are 22 or 35 players. They can't change 35 players, they can change one coach. And that's what happens. Ultimately, that the relationship breaks down. Even with Xavi, who is like incredible. At the end of it all, there were people like Rafinha who were not good getting along with him, and we have found that. And there are many others also like that. And that happens. When you're losing, and when you're losing, like Barcelona is losing, or you're drawing, or whatever, the pressure gets to the players, the negativity gets to the players, the criticism gets to the players, and then they find one person to blame, and that's the coach. And that's when the relationship like disintegrates. And the day that happens, Laporta or Deco won't have an option.
And with Flick, it's always been about that man management, right? Even before he was appointed, we were like, okay, he might not revolutionize our tactics, but he's a great man manager. He will get the dressing room, he'll band them together, we'll have this incredible team spirit. And I think Xavi, to your point, Dev, he had that, but he had more of a friendly approach. Whereas we see Flick as more of a, I don't want to say a dictator, but he's more of a tough guy who's going to say, okay, this will happen and it will happen solely because I say it will happen. It's not, okay, you do this if you want to. Like, no, you do this because you have to do it. And I think there is some merit to that because the coach ultimately does make the decisions and the players are there to listen to the coach, especially players that are so young, which we have in the team. But to your point, kind of if you don't tweak stuff, it goes out of date in a way, right? Because football changes as well. It's not just that you don't change, but the football around you, the way people play against you, the way people exploit you will change. And that's the problem here. And I don't think fans are expecting Flick to change everything from ground up, right? We're not asking him to throw the tactics board out the window and say, okay, we're doing something completely. We're not going to suddenly become a team that sits in a low block defense like, I don't know, Prime Mourinho or stuff like that. We're not going to be that. We're not also going to be the Prime Barcelona under Pep. That's also not happening, obviously. But then tweaking things here and there, maybe adjusting to the game state, adjusting to the opponent, adjusting to the players that you have, which you mentioned. I think that's what we want from this Barca, from this flex Barca. And I keep going back to it. There's principles of play and there's tactics. And those two are fundamentally different because one needs to be adhered to at all times and the other is fluid. It depends on the opponent, on the game state, on the occasion. But then you do have your principles. Flick can still have his own principle, his ideology, and that can be fine. Okay, that stays, but that doesn't mean that you approach every single game in the same manner. I think that's the biggest mistake that we have. We approach every game like it's the same opponent every single time. So that formula cannot be applied to an Elche and to a PSG, to I don't know, or to Manchester City.
This was Club Brugge. Club Brugge did the same thing that any other team has done to us, and we didn't have answers. If your only answer is no, my front three have to press more, and then everything will fall in place. We are being outmuscled, outrun. If you look into the challenges, like Eric Garcia is not failing because he's not technically proficient. He's failing because he's being outrun. Araujo, to a large extent, like if you look into the games and where he has played and then we have conceded, his tackling still is okay, like the way he used to. But the strategy around him has changed. Coaches have found a better way to mitigate his presence, and they are deploying those, and we don't have an answer to that. So while we are still trying to put that offside trap in place, now almost every single team keeps people in the offside zone anyways, then they drop back and then they come back again. Our defenders cannot time, like four people at the same time cannot time when is the right time to step in and when is the right time. Yes, once in a while, in a game or two, maybe our forwards will press, Dom. But we have still 40, 45 games left in the season if we are going all the way. I don't see how we have the players to press for 45 games. We just don't have it. Even if all the players came back and we had all the fitness in the world, they will again relapse if they continue doing that.
And that goes back to just tweaking your approach depending on the opponent because we don't have to play that way against every single opponent in La Liga. When you have your players fresh and ready to do that for certain games where you know you'll need that, when you need to contest possession, when you need to stifle someone's build up, when you need to actually put your foot on the gas to be able to outmuscle, outscore, outrun someone. Okay, so those, I'm not saying those games won't exist, but then doing that for 90 minutes twice a week, every week. That's just not no team in the world can do that, right? And I think that's the biggest problem here. But this does lead us into the second topic there, which is the return of some players. We have Jean Garcia, who's apparently going to be back very soon. Rafinha might be back after the next break, in time for Chelsea. Apparently, obviously Pedri is still out. We don't know how much longer he will be out. But these three players, on paper at least, they do give you a little bit of a push in terms of the way that Flick wants to play, in terms of the way that they actually patch up some of the biggest flaws that we are experiencing at the moment. And yes, it might not fix everything, but it will make Barca instantly a bit better, I would say.
Like everybody says that when these players are back, there will be definitely a marked improvement in how we're playing. But these players were there when the season started. And from the beginning of the season till now, we haven't looked very composed or collected, even when they were there. The challenges were there. There is a fundamental difference in last season's team and this season's team in the way they
Yep.
were playing. So to your point that, okay, when John Garcia comes back, yes, probably we are not shipping 16 goals in 5 matches, correct? Probably playing out from the back will be better because he has better ball distribution,
Yep.
can control it better. Some of those things will happen. When Rafinha comes back, you have a runner who will run his lungs out. Lewandowski comes back, you have a better hold up person in the nine, so you can get the
Yeah.
second ball. I personally don't think that's the reason why we are performing the way we are performing, because when you can't defend, when you ship 3 goals against Club Brugge, and no offense to them, they're a good team, they're
Yeah.
good players, they're prepared for the game. But when you are doing that with Club Brugge, then there is a problem, and it's not just players.
Yeah, it's the system in place that doesn't really do a good job of patching up some issues in the team or in the structure itself. Because when you look at the goals that we shipped against Bruges, for
Simple.
example, yeah, same goals, and then you have these goals where you can see that the team not being in sync because when one guy steps out, the other guy gets isolated. There's no one to cover, and it does seem like there wasn't. I don't want to put this on Flick and say that there wasn't a system in place in the first place because there obviously is, but it seems so uncoordinated that even if you put a player or players in there who have 10 times the hardworking nature of the players that we've played, it wouldn't make that big of a difference. Because sometimes running more, running harder, running more in a more intense pressing scheme, it doesn't really solve for not having a system in place. That's the biggest issue. And to me, and to your point, the defensive system looked non-existent. It looked like we were literally not there on the pitch at all.
People can attack us with 2 transitions every single game, Tom.
Yeah,
2 passes, 2 transitions, and they are in our box. It has happened so many times. So if we are thinking that, okay, if 3 people come back, all of that is going to disappear overnight, then I think we're mistaken. Yes, in some games, we'll absolutely kill opponents. We'll score 5 goals, 6 goals, all of that. But when repeatedly, game after game, your opponents are bypassing your press and counter-attacking you in 2 passes, in which your entire team has been just completely, taken out of the game, you have to accept that there are some challenges either.
yeah,
And now it's not all on the coach, right? The players are not applying themselves, and we have seen that they're not pressing, they're not backing up. There's a lot of gaps. Even when we are on the counter, you will see a lot of players are not tracking back. It's visible on television. So there are issues out there for sure. But if those issues have been there for the last 10, 15 games, what makes us think that'll go away tomorrow? I do think, back to your original question, when John Garcia and Lewandowski and Rafinha, they all come back, maybe we'll have a better run in the middle. And when you start winning, it becomes a habit. So you stitch 5 games together, you stitch 5 wins, and then it becomes 10, it becomes 15, and you compound it, and suddenly your season is amazing, right?
mhm.
Can happen. But I personally think it's going to be very hard. The team hasn't looked as a cohesive unit from the beginning of the season till now. And we are almost in November. And while a lot of league is left, I still think we'll be very good in the league.
Yeah,
We'll win a lot of games in the league. Whether we'll win it all the way or not, I don't know. I just think this year Madrid is very pragmatic. They might not be exciting, but they're getting the job done clinically. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. Champions League, we are, I think, seventh. We are 7 points, so we'll be 11th or 12th. I still think we'll qualify for the next round. So we can go to the second round or a round of 16. But I just don't see the team in the same cohesive, integrated fashion the way we saw it last season.
yeah, it is a problem. And the players keep referencing the last season and saying, okay, we have to leave the goals to the last season behind. Barca were really good at riding those margins last season. And this season, it seems those 50-50s or those margins are just slightly tilting towards the other side of the pitch, right? So towards the opponents that we face. And I think it's a good thing to try and reset and do things a bit differently this season. Now, back to the original point of not changing, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. But the players themselves seem to be noticing that Dev as well. See the comments after games, Frankie De Jong saying, "Okay, no, we have to leave last season behind us and then focus on this season." So they are publicly saying something's not clicking.
Not working.
Yeah, some things are not exactly the way they're supposed to be. Now, is that a message towards Flick or is it just a general feeling in the air? I don't know. But to your point, when you said, okay, the dressing room needs to be cohesive, if that leads to turmoil behind the scenes, then we have a real problem, right?
I have a
That's
question.
when,
This is a little bit more nuanced than just what happens in the middle. Here's the thing,
yeah,
though. Laporta yesterday, when the training session was on, he gave the soundbite that elections will be in March, between March and May. He's not going to prepone the elections. He's going to hold it at that time. Now, this is election year. If we enter an election year when Barca is completely knocked out of all competitions and losing,
Oh,
and
well,
it is terrible for any president. However, Laporta may say that, okay, I love Flick, he has very strict ideas and all of that stuff. He's also a politician. He wants to win
mhm,
this term.
he
So,
does.
is there a situation, Tom, that you foresee? And this is a lot of ifs, right?
Yeah.
Let's assume Barca's form does not pick up. They continue
Okay.
dropping points here and there, right? Even after the games come up, they do not do well in the Champions League, right?
Okay.
Are you seeing a situation before March that Laporta sacks Hansi Flick and gets somebody new? If it goes there, as I said, there are 20 ifs here. Maybe none of them will come true. But do you think there's a situation like that?
I think for one that mid-season changes rarely, if ever, work. But I don't think Laporta is above it. I think he would pull the trigger because yeah, he would put the club and himself, obviously, with the election year. I think before before Hansi Flick, and he would say, okay, you know what? I need some change. I need some fresh blood in because you know what? We as a fan base, we're very reactive. And sometimes we do have that shiny new toy syndrome. And then who does he bring in? Because there's no feasible and realistic upgrade on Flick, especially mid-season, right? For a Barca, that would in that scenario be like at the bottom of the battle, right? But which high-profile quote unquote coach would number one join the team mid-season and number two join the part of my French, the shit show that would be present in that scenario. So I think there's no in that scenario, there's no real option to boost the team. But yes, I do think Laporta would pull the trigger in that scenario.
Well, there you go. So that's how we think about the players and players reporting okay, so there you go. That's how we think about the players and what might happen when the players return. We grew up to the staple of Messi and Busquets and Iniesta, who played years and years for the same club. And we somehow take it for granted. But this generation is very different. This generation is different. You can see them, the way they go out, the way they communicate, the way they use social media, what have you. If Barca did not win, and if Barca did not give Lamine the platform that he needs to become, he obviously wants to be the number one. Would Lamine stay beyond his contract? And so on and so forth. Would he be a one club man? Even Leo wasn't, or he was pushed out. He probably would have been, he was pushed out.
Yeah.
Is there any merit to it? I definitely think
Yeah,
that. But
probably,
at the
yeah.
same time, I will think that, okay, I belong to the best club in the world who can give me all this. You give me the Champions Leagues and the multi-billion dollar contracts and what have you. Does this add up with the Barca that we know, or and is there loyalty or what have you? What do you think, Tom?
It's a tough one there. It's a tough one, luckily for us. But then we do take the La Masia love for the club for granted sometimes because these kids, they do genuinely love the club. I do think that all of these Gavi, Nal, and Lamine, and Herman, and all these players that we have, the young ones, they do really seem to be infatuated with the club. And I think that is massive. Even Pedri, who's not exactly La Masia, he loves the club and embodies the club in such a way that he could easily be La Masia, right? So I think there is a side of these players that says, okay, my heart is a Barca and that will remain so for the foreseeable future. But then can you actually retain the best players in the world without being the best club in the world? Messi did it for numerous years. But then again, at that point, this is also something that we should probably consider when the team was in a downward spiral. At that point, he had already won most of the things with Barca. He had this the high of being a Barca player. Lamine doesn't have that. Imagine Lamine staying at this level, club wise. Obviously, personally, individually, he might soar even higher than he is at the moment. But what if the club cannot follow that upward spiral? What if the club cannot match his individual ability with their collective ability? Do we have any ground of retaining him at that point? I know love for the club is one thing. Barca may somehow find the finances to give him the contract that he deserves, but then if collective success doesn't follow, how realistic is it for Barca to keep the Lamines and the Pedris and whatever of the world at the club? So I think that's a very valid question. We can't say, and to your point, kids nowadays, they are different, right? There's no escaping the fact that they think differently, they see themselves in a different light. Maybe that light sometimes is not realistic. Maybe they do think a bit too much of themselves at times.
Barca haven't had a Ballon d'Or winner from them for a long time now. last was obviously Messi. To your point, Messi had already won everything when the team started its
Yeah,
downward spiral. But when he did win, Barca definitely had the best team in the whole world. Literally,
yeah,
they had the best team in the whole world to win all this. So Messi had the support act to do what he needed to do to win those four Champions Leagues or whatever
yeah,
those billions of trophies that he won. He had the support act. Does Lamine have the support act? He doesn't, and we know that. We absolutely know that. Right now, he doesn't. But that said, though, I do have another. I don't know. It's not a counter argument. But if you look into the teams that are becoming successful now, and let's start with City. Let's go to Bayern. Let's go and even talk about PSG. They are more or less coming up with teams that are a collection of great players rather
oh
than
yeah,
one individual standing out somewhere. That's changing everywhere. It's like ruthless efficiency. You're a nine. This is your job. I've got a nine, and he's just very good in that, and that's what he will do. The Maradona or the Pele or the Messi. I think that's slowly going away from the romance of football, and that's sad. But you can see that teams and coaches and clubs are actively going in that direction. They do not want to be held so-called hostage to one super player. They just want to have many good players, and perfect example of this is Bayern. Now look at the Bayern team right now. Like Michael Olise is now becoming famous, but when he came in, he was nobody. But look at them play, right, under company after in the second season. It's a combination of really good players coming together and playing. Same thing with City. So even if he doesn't stay, does it mean the end of Barcelona? I don't think so. I really don't think so. But you definitely do need a very good sporting arena, like a sporting director or who have a very good idea about how to put a team together, which is
yeah,
functional and can win games, which is what Liverpool have done, which is what Pep has done. Like the English Premier League is definitely moved in that direction. 100%.
mm,
Both the game will change. It won't be the same game like what it was when Messi was there or Maradona was taking Napoli to win everything. I think that those days have changed. I think we'll see both. The functions will change, the fundamentals will change, how these players are perceived and what power equations they carry are going to change.
yeah. Dev, I think to your point, football is a collective sport, right? The collective is always going to be stronger than one individual carrying the collective. And Arteta's Arsenal are the best example of this because I don't think they have superstars. They have Rice, who is one of the best midfielders on the planet. They do have Saliba, one of the best center backs, but they're not really superstars per se. They're not really players. Yes, they are worth a lot of money and all that. They are absolutely the best in their what they do, but they're not mythical to your point. They're not the Messis or the Maradonas or even the Lamine Yamals, because look at the way the Lamine Yamal is perceived. And look at how, I don't know, top defender is perceived, a top midfielder is
I
perceived.
mean, Saka does not have
Yeah.
anywhere the
Yeah.
PR that Lamine has, but he scores goals. He's very effective for Barcelona.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, he is. He absolutely is. And that's the thing, the collective. So you can have one superstar, for example, but you don't have to necessarily surround that superstar with other superstars to create a great team. So what Lamine needs more than superstars around him, he needs complementary players, players who can play with him, players that he can. So one of the things that Messi did really well is he made the players around them much better than they were. He just made them 10 times better. And all Barca had to do in the latter stages of Messi's career was find complementary profiles and put them around Messi. They failed miserably with that. No, if you find the players that actually work well off of Lamine's profile, that's it. You don't have to have superstars. He will make them look much better than they are. He will lift the whole team up, the whole level of the team up. But the players around them need to be players that actually fit the system and of course coaches ideas as well. So I think that is the way to that the collective suddenly becomes much better than the players, the individual pieces of a team are.
I think for this Barca to regain any sort of normalcy and consistency is still going to take a couple of years. Because
Yeah,
I still think with all the patching up job that we have done, we really miss important profiles.
yeah,
You cannot plug all the holes with La Masia. It just doesn't happen.
no,
For
no,
PR, it's good, but in reality, when you're playing Champions League, when you're playing real professional football day in, day out, three times a week, you need those kind of profiles, and we don't have them. So for us to plug those holes realistically, irrespective of what Deco says, it is going to take 2 to 3 seasons at least. And that's Lamine Yamal turning 21 or 22 and so on and so forth. But contracts will be renewed, new contracts will be coming up. Other clubs will want to try and sign him. Asia will have enough money. Qatar will have enough money. There are lots of clubs in the world who will have enough money to buy him. outright and go away. So that fear will always stay. So my thinking is, I think we lived those last 15 years in that fear, and that fear caused the incredible financial ruin that came along with it of 10 years, right? So I think do the best that you can. Obviously, you want to keep the best talent with you and give him the platform that he deserves, but don't go beyond your means. Stay within your
Yeah.
means. If it happens, if it doesn't happen, it's okay. If Messi had actually gone to Manchester City in the year of that Eurofax, I think it would have been good for everyone. Literally, we didn't really win anything with him after that. He left anyways, but at least in that year, had he gone, we would have got about 150 million in transfer. That would have fixed our debt. They would have got some players. Our recovery would have become much better than what it was. So my thing has, yeah, that's what I would say, that try and do everything that is possible, but within your means. If within that a player is happy, great. If not, that's
Yeah.
okay. Then look into what's the best next alternative to build a good team. Because one thing I'm sure of, you can build a team that can win champions and leagues and medals and trophies without them being superstars and
Yeah.
galacticos. So now let's move to the next part, and I think a couple of things, Dom. We go to Balaidos tomorrow. And Balaidos has never been easy for us. We've lost the last four, drawn three. We struggle whenever we go there. And Aspas loves us. The whole Celta team loves us, right? And I have forgotten how many times on the counter we have conceded. But tomorrow we are going at a time when we are practically very fragile at the back. We are practically leaking 5 goals a game average and so on. If tomorrow we lose, which we can, because we have lost in Balaidos many a time, it is going to be quite difficult from the media perspective. One, how you feel about that, and second, what are the chances of that actually happening?
Yeah, I'm now looking forward to that game. I am, because it's always going to be a challenge. To your point, it's never easy. We have lost too many games there. We never seem to do well. And the main concern is that the team doesn't seem to believe in their ability to win those games either. That's my thing at the moment. If we don't go into games and think, okay, we are the better team here, we are actually going to do this, we're going to beat this team, whoever they are, then you lose half of the potency of the squad. I can't believe we're talking about Celta of all teams, because you would imagine that we're talking about a Champions League final or something, but no, it's actually the La Liga game against Celta Vigo. If we go in there and we have this fear of the past results, if we have this fear of us being in a very bad place at the moment, then I don't see us overturning this curse, right? But then this is a time for Flick's man management and all this that we've been saying about. Okay, he can turn this dressing room around. Now is the time to do it. Once these couple of wins happen in a row, the team will naturally pick itself up, because we work that way as a team. So Barca, but also the fan base. As soon as we see a couple of wins in a row, we'll feel much better and we'll be much more optimistic, and that will also in turn lift the team itself. So I think it's a circle that we can start, and then once it is started, we can maintain it. Now, does it start with Celta? I don't know. It's such a tricky one to predict, but I think I'm always going to be positive, obviously, but I do think that we can start a win streak tomorrow, Dev, to answer your
Okay.
question.
What are the main concerns that Barca has? Obviously, one is given, which is the high line, and they are hitting us on the counter. And Center's very good at that, and we've always struggled against them. What are the things that we think we need to be mindful, considering that Flick is not going to change, right? So we're going to go with the high line against that Celta attack, against Mingueza, against Aspas, against all of them. What do you think?
Yeah, okay, two things right off the bat, top of my head. Counter pressing and the rest defense. Two things that I do think that this system needs. If you're going to go with the same system, so we know the flick is not going to change. We discussed that in this episode itself. You have the high line, you have an iffy pressure from the front. So how do you sustain this approach without that? You sustain it by defending with the ball. Because against Club Brugge, we saw Barca that can still dominate possession. Barca had the most possession in that Champions League round across all the games, and yet they conceded the highest XG of all the teams in that round, which means that we are not doing enough defending on the ball. So they're not defending in possession of the ball. So I think that's number one, just being a team that can mitigate the damage by just taking the ball away from the opponent. And then obviously for this system to work well, you need to have counter pressing. So when we lose the ball, if we allow the opposition to, within those first couple of seconds, maybe 5 seconds, if we allow them to expand the pitch and play out from that moment of loss of possession, we're toast. We're not going to suddenly fix our whole defensive structure, but then we can fix the instant counter pressing that will avoid us ever being in a situation where we have to chase people in a vertical channel depth. So I would say those two things, they're not easy fixes, but they are fixes that are within the parameters of the current system.
What's the team composition you're thinking we're going up with? The starting 11 now.
I think it's going to be similar to Club Brugge. Do we have any other options? I don't know what happens with Koundé. Koundé seems to be the tough part of, or the struggling part of this team. But Flick, for some reason or the other, keeps insisting on him. I think there's a potential to tweak stuff on in that area of the pitch. The front three, if Lewandowski can't play from the beginning, then you would imagine that it's the same front three. Number 10 role is Fermins. At the moment, I don't see Olmo usurping that. We don't have Pedri, so that means Casado and Frankie are going to be there. And then the back line obviously depends on the Koundé situation, but then Eric, Araujo. What's happening with Kubarsi, by the way? He's not been playing for the last couple of games. Is that just a fatigue thing, or is I don't honestly know. Bald is going to play. Is Joan Garcia back for this game, or is he back after? I don't know. So probably not. Yeah. So if he's not back, then Tech. So I think the only question mark is Koundé, and if Koundé's not there, then Eric, Araujo, Kubarsi, Balde. Uh,
Eric's broken nose. He's not playing tomorrow.
oh yeah, he's not playing. So if Eric's not there, then Koundé must be in it. So yeah, Koundé, Araujo, Pau, Kubarsi. I think that's it.
I'm not looking forward to the timeline if we lose. That
Oh
is
yeah,
going to be insane if we lose at Palados after what been happening the last few weeks. But okay, with that, we come to the last story of today, which is basically Barca finally, after 2 years or 3 years, are back at Camp Nou. Not back in that way, but at least they got the license to have an open training session. I loved it. It was beautiful. Yes, the stadium is not ready. Yes, there are many things to be built. Yes, it's been 2 years. Yes, there's negativity and criticism, but I haven't seen a club or a stadium, and my knowledge is less and limited, and I am biased, and I know that. But I have never seen 23,000 people come for a session like that and create a spectacle like that for any stadium in the world. And the stadium looked beautiful from inside. Whatever's happening on the outside, I don't know. So it was absolutely fitting. I felt a lot of the criticism is overhyped because when you are building a 105,000 seater stadium by renewing an old one, it is going to take time. It's never easy. These are very complex operations. The fact that they have been delayed, expected. The fact that money is like, apparently they need more money, expected. So I don't know why there's so much of criticism, but I think media will always criticize when there's something happening. But all in all, I think this is incredible. And I absolutely love that.
yeah. Same here. I have the same sentiments. It's been so long. At one point, I felt like it's never going to happen. And yeah, to your point, the media did cause a lot of that uproar. Reading all those reports of Barca having issues with the contractors, missed deadlines, not paying the people, not Barca, but those contractors being a mess. And I'm no one to say to Laporta, okay, you made a bad decision, but it does seem like a lot of the trouble did arise from the contractors themselves and all the trouble that they have caused. Now we are finally at a stage where we can say, okay, it's getting closer. It's real. It's happening right now. It's just a matter of time, and it always has been, obviously. But yeah, I think the team needs this, and I think we do underestimate the impact a proper new Camp Nou will do on having this team. That uproar, we don't need that. We need that arena for the players that we have because they deserve that. They deserve it. They gave us such a season last season, and that was without having a proper stadium. And yes, credit to Montjuic as well. It has this historical ambiance. It has the value. It has It's kind of. It brings everyone a bit closer in a sense, and there's a whole journey to get there. It's all part of the experience, right? So I'm not dissing Montjuic in any capacity here, but it is no Camp Nou, right? It's not the same thing. So I think it might give us a boost that this team desperately needs them. And I think this is a very good piece of positive news to kind of end the show on.
All the economics around this are also positive. Waiting for the 1B license, where they will be allowed to host at least 42,000
Yes.
spectators on the stands, and then they will start playing, which they're saying it will be with the match against Athletic. So we'll see whether that happens or not. From this January, I think we are going to see Barca at Camp Nou, and that will be amazing because the whatever is happening outside, I don't know, but the atmosphere inside the pitch was incredible. It looked incredible. So it'll be good to have the fans back there. It'll be good to have the players playing in that atmosphere. And with that, we'll bring close to this show. Thank you, as always. Please let us know the story that you want us to cover. But in the meantime, there's a lot of games coming up. We'll be covering those, and as usual, we'll be writing about them and all the videos, podcasts, what have you. Subscribe, share, let us know. Until then, in the next episode, stay safe, take care, and Visca El Barça.